questions and stuff. Yeah, you can do this one paper per group. Before we start, did everybody get the notes?
I'm stressing on that. Oh my gosh. I'm such a bad Are we good to start?
Yeah, go ahead, start first.
Alright, I'm Rebecca.
I'm Amanda. I'm Lena. Carly.
We had chapter 14, which is what can the new teacher expect. So for our ticket into the discussion, we want everybody to pull out a piece of notebook paper, and if you want to, you can like split it with somebody else and just use like half a piece or something like that. And we want you to respond to this question, which is, what do you expect your first year as a teacher to be like? And take about 2 minutes to respond.
Yeah.
What you're expecting, you're expecting.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
So we won't get nervous.
But I'm right. I just read one word.
Can you spell it?
Can you spell the one word?
CHK. That's how you spell it.
Oh. Anyway. What if you don't know it?
Okay, so would anyone like to share their response about what they expect? Brittany.
I said that my first year was going to be scary and that I was going to be a mess, but on the inside. You know when you're like a mess and you're like, ah, on the inside, but you're like cool on the outside?
That's me, my
I said mine will probably be very overwhelming. I put a lot, which I mean, it's gonna be a lot, and stressful and weird.
I also said overwhelming, hectic, fast-paced, and honestly, the job I have now, I work in a pizza kitchen, and when we get like a big rush that comes in, I'm like, oh my god, I'm quitting, because it's just like this, that, and then it gets so hectic and chaotic, and at the end of it, I'm like, you know what, I don't want to work anywhere else. So I think teaching's going to be like that. I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I can't do this, I'm quitting, I shouldn't have done this. But then at the end of the year, I'm gonna be like, you know what, I like this, I can do this.
I think I'll be excited, but at the same time, it'll be one giant learning experience.
So, I think the biggest thing is like, I know I'm gonna have to be flexible that year. There's gonna be a lot of new things, a lot of things that are gonna be thrown at me, a lot of things I'm not used to, and I think that, you know, it's the matter of being flexible and going to be able to roll with the punches and learn from your mistakes and be able to admit that. I think it's like one of the big things that I'm gonna make sure that I'm aware of my first year.
So the reason we did that as our opening question is because this whole chapter is about what to expect your first year. So we went ahead and wanted to ask that so you had an idea. And this chapter basically tells you like what to expect, how to deal with it, and people you can go to.
So when you first begin teaching, you may experience culture shock, which is like what people experience when they move to a foreign country. And you don't really expect that because you think that you're going to be used to what the school is like because you've been in school your whole life, but it's really different being on the teacher side. So in the early months of the school year, many new teachers experience depression, self-doubt, outbursts of crying, physical exhaustion, insomnia, crankiness, inability to control temper, and even fits of vomiting before going into school.
Because they're all gonna be on my speed dial.
Is everybody good?
This way, Phil's gonna be number one on my speed dial.
No, all y'all are gonna be in the same and I'll be like, having like a fit, and I'm gonna call to be like, look, I need you to just calm me down. Yeah, she would.
We good?
I'm staying after.
So, like I said before, most teachers may think that they're going to be used to what school is like, but it is very different on the teacher side of things. And the newness of teaching can impact everyone differently. Some people get really overwhelmed and frustrated, and it's just really bad. But then other people have a pleasant experience and discover that teaching is, what makes them happy, and they find their self more when they become a teacher than they did before. So.
Everybody good?
Yes.
My mom, until she got sick, she was a principal at an elementary school, but before that she started out as an elementary school teacher, and I have never known anyone else that has as much of a passion for children and teaching as my mom does. But in her first year of teaching, obviously I wasn't around then, but she told me her first year of teaching she wanted to quit. Like, she didn't think she could do it, and like she went her whole life like me, knowing she wanted to be a teacher and having a huge passion for education, and then her first year in the classroom she didn't think she could do it. And now she's been in the teaching system for like 23 years, and she was the principal. So, yeah, if someone like her starts out rough, it's probably gonna be rough for all of us.
Yeah. So somebody that can help you when you're a first year teacher is your principal. When you begin teaching, the school's principal is now a colleague. So you're both fellow educators, you have a common goal, you want to help children succeed. And principals can play many roles in your life as a new teacher. So they're the official leaders of the school, so any decisions that the teachers make, you kind of got to run it through your principal. Principals are helpers, so they can help you if you're experiencing trouble with a student or with the curriculum or getting materials or anything. They're the policy makers, so they're going to determine how the school runs on a day-to-day basis, as well as be the enforcers of the policy that the state or the school board or whoever makes. Are we good on this slide?
You can get this right.
Okay.
Almost done then.
So principals are also crisis managers. So if there's something that's happening and you have no idea what to do, go to them because they've had more experience than you. They know how to deal with different things. They probably might know the policy a little better than you do. And they're also facilitators, so they keep teachers supplied with necessities that they need. They're also reward dispensers. So they're going to be the ones that assign your classes, assign your students. They can take care of assigning you extracurricular activities to be like an advisor for. And they can also have the power to reward or withhold good reviews and compliments based on your teaching.
Is everybody good?
They're also the judges of teachers, so they're going to be the ones that determine whether or not you get hired again after your first year. They can also act as buffers, so they're going to be there for you if you have an issue with an angry parent and you need somebody to kind of be in there with you to make sure that things don't get out of hand or anything. Also, if a school, if the community is not happy with how the school is progressing or performing, the principal usually takes the blame for that. So they can kind of be like sacrificial lambs in place of the teacher, so the teacher doesn't take all the fall for the whole school. So the principal can help you in many ways. Teachers need to be proactive when it comes to getting help from their principal. If you go for help, there's studies that show that you can in turn become more reflective and more able to solve your own problems in the future because you've had somebody kind of guide you along and help you with an initial problem, which gives you better skills to solve your future problems. Though seeking help is encouraged, it's wise when doing so to consult your principal honestly, directly, and somewhat sparingly. You don't want to give them full power in your classroom and over how you teach, but you do need to know how to ask for help when you need it. Principals can provide advice on dealing with problems. If you have an extremely withdrawn student or a student that needs extra help, they can tell you how to deal with that. They can put you in contact with specialists in your building, so other teachers that may have more experience to help you deal with any other issues, disruptive children, anything you may need help with. They can also do demonstrative lessons or presentations in your class that can help you kind of see how you can improve with teaching your lessons. And they can give you feedback after observing the classroom that can also help you improve.
So a mixed blessing. So new teachers are vulnerable to many outside forces as well as their own insecurities. There's an increasing amount of cooperation among teachers and greater access to specialists, mentors, and aides. They typically work independently with their own students in the classroom. There's help outside the classroom for the teachers, such as administrators. However, the fellow teachers and colleagues tend to be more accessible and less threatening as a new teacher. And sometimes teachers can be a negative influence, lowering their standards. So there is a lot to learn. So the degree of a child's success as the learner is the best measure of a teacher's success or failure. The bond between a teacher's instruction and a student's learning is often overstated. However, this relationship is crucial. So there is so much to learn from the first day of class to the end, and you're in charge of your own classroom, and it is exciting and inspiring for others.
Does anybody have any questions or comments up to this point in the presentation?
Doing great.
Alright, so being comfortable and effective around children is a major concern for beginning teachers. 3 areas that cause some problems in teacher success and failure are discipline, social distance, and sex. Students show that the longer college students stay in a teaching program, the better their attitude is towards students. In contrast, beginning teachers had less positive attitudes, like if you weren't in a teaching program as well. Because college students in education programs think more idealistically and therefore more positively. They expect that their classrooms can be better than the ones they learned in. Unrealistic standards are one of the causes of teacher struggles. Okay, classroom management. So to maintain classroom order, beginning teachers often take on one of 2 behaviors: a strict, business-like, almost hostile, or natural breaking down barriers between themselves and students. Both can cause problems. Strict, stiff teachers may let the behavior become a habit, and overly relaxed teachers may throw students off because they expect an adult but receive someone who acts like them. So, student-teacher relations. Most beginning teachers are closer in age to their students than to the other people that they work with, so that makes them more susceptible to accusations of sexual misconduct. Because students can develop crushes on their teachers really easily, and vice versa.
No, I've seen it happen at my school.
I actually had a teacher at high school who dated one of his students.
teachers being overly friendly with students. I remember my high school civics teacher. Everybody loved her, but no one like behaved in her class because she tried so hard. She was young, and she actually graduated from Campbell, and she was great at teaching. Like, she was great at delivering the material, but she tried so hard to act like one of us and act like our friend that, like, no one behaved in her class. So, like, those of us that listened, you know, we did great in the class, but then no one wanted to behave for her, and she had, like, no classroom management because she tried too hard to, like, be our friend. So even though everybody loved her, everyone knew they could get away with not behaving in her class.
That is really one of the hardest things, is to find that balance between being relational, but not too friendly. I mean, not too, buddy-buddy.
Everybody good? So, this section is about like how to deal with parents, and I know this is a big issue because last night we actually had a meeting with the teaching scholars, and we had a teacher come in and talk to us. And at the end, she let us ask questions about like what we're worried about, and one thing that I think almost everybody asked about was parents and like how to deal with that. So this is a really important section in this chapter. But it is crucial for teachers to establish and maintain effective channels of communication with parents. And there are actually 6 main reasons for parent-teacher problems. So the first one is varied perceptions. That's when teachers and parents see the same child and same actions as different. So like when a parent, doesn't think their child's doing anything wrong or something like that, and the teacher's obviously seeing there is an issue. I think that's actually a big one. The second one is judgments on students. So you have to be careful not to crush the aspirations of parents. Like, don't tell a parent their kid is awful and never going anywhere in life. You have to find the right words to actually discuss this issue with a parent. Parents see school as the road to child's success. And then the last bullet, the careful not to say their student is above or below average is also important. Like, you don't want to say their student is, you gotta be careful with the word average, because if you tell somebody their student is, below average or above average, the parent may not even necessarily know what that means. You have to really elaborate, and just be careful with your wording whenever you're talking to parents. The third thing is differences of social class and appearance. Most teachers are middle class. That can cause a communication difficulty. Upper class parents may look down on public school teachers, and poor parents may have had bad experience with schools and they could fear teachers. So, the teacher's job is to teach, but at the same time they have to be able to openly discuss things with the parents. It's like most teachers, like I said, are middle class. So if you have a parent that comes in and they're high class, they are very looking for the right word there.
We know those people.
Yeah, it can be hard to communicate with them. And then the other thing where you have poor parents that may have had bad experiences with school, and they may not like teachers, it can be hard to have a decent conversation with them where if they're bad-mouthing teachers or something like that, it can be very hard to openly discuss that with them. The fourth thing is overburdened parents. It's difficult for parents to make time to meet with teachers.
I'm glad you said something about overburdened parents, because in my experience with my parents, they were not really involved with my education, because we already had so many children and they already had so many things going on. They weren't the upper class parents, but I wouldn't say they were poor either. It's just they never had time to get with the teacher, and the teacher would ask who can I talk to? It's kind of really?
Yeah.
But then I'm like,
I had an experience that I did my senior year internship in high school at a school, and there was a man who was recently became a single dad, and his job didn't allow him to work on help the child work on her pet project, and he came in and the teacher had to be really careful to not become a counselor, because he was kind of he was crying because the child didn't do a project and he didn't have the time, and her stepmama had generally done all that with her. So the teacher actually pulled me from kindergarten and gave me a box of supplies, and the child and I sat in the teacher's lounge and made the project. because the parent came in and expressed how burdened they were with work and how they just simply didn't have the time and didn't have the resources to be able to help her.
So number 5, the pain of change. School can change children, and parents don't want their kids growing away from them. Sometimes the parents will actually reject school. And then number 6, special problems, chaotic households, and this could lead to conflict with parents during conference. So for number 6, I mean, a bunch of us know that some kids have, problems at home, whether they, the parents are fighting or maybe they're divorced, or there's a lot of other issues, but I think that's the main one if we're talking about parent-teacher problems. Because a big issue you could have if a mom and a dad come in and there's marital problems and they come in and have a conference, the teacher's job is not to be a marriage counselor. And so that could lead to a lot of conflict during the actual conference.
I actually have something to say about like parent-teacher problems. I actually know a teacher and that teaches 3rd grade, and she had this parent that would call her every single day while she was at school, like during her like planning. And she said that like she was just asking how her daughter was doing in the class every single day. Well, she eventually just kind of said, okay, you can email me, I'll be glad to email you back. Well, one night she got home from school and her husband was like, someone called wanting to speak to you. The lady had looked up her name in the phone book and now was calling her house. And so like, you might run into some parents like that, but she was like, honestly, the best way to handle that situation is you just have to kind of like be upfront with them and just kind of tell them ahead of time, like your parents ahead of time, like I will call you if like there's behavioral problems, and I'll even call you and tell you about good things that your child's doing. But I think that was just a little excessive. But there may be some parents that are like that, and that may be something that you have to deal with as a teacher. So.
And if you ever run into a problem like that, you can always go back to what we were talking about. You can go to your principal with it and tell them, because I feel like that's a very bad problem to have with a parent. So, like I said, the principal can be a buffer, so it'd be good to go talk to your principal, make sure you keep them in the loop.
And I think, like, honestly, you can go into legal trouble at that point too.
Yeah.
So, or like, like you wouldn't mean to, but something could happen. Yeah. It could be legal. So bringing the principal in is like, words are hard. It's been a long time.
Okay, so I think this is what we all have like really needed to hear in this PowerPoint is how to survive the first year of teaching. The best thing to do in the book was like to begin now is like start your planning now for whenever you're teaching. Even if you're a freshman, start now, even though you've got 4 years until you actually become like a teacher in your own classroom. It says start now to prepare for the predictable events and the problems of the initial year. And then it also says make a systematic study. Study your strengths and your weaknesses, presenting in class. If your weaknesses are talking in front of a group of people, that may be something that you need to work on because you are going to be teaching in front of students. So that's something that you may need to work on, or if you can't project loudly, that's something that you need to work on because you want to make sure everybody is able to hear you. And then your strengths, you want to be able to know that you are good at making lesson plans and good at time management in the classroom. But this says develop an eye toward using your strengths in the classroom to gradually eliminate your trouble areas. The second thing it says you should do is keep a teaching journal. So keep a teaching journal now. So whenever you find something that you really like listening to a teacher and you think, wow, I might want to do that in my classroom one day, or if you have suggestions from other teachers whenever you go do your observations, if they suggest something to you about your first year and they just jot it down so you have that memorization and you can remember to do that your first year. This serves 2 functions. It says a constant reminder you are in charge of preparing your own classroom one day, and it will be a lifesaver when you begin to struggle your first year. Okay, it says to maintain the proper frame of mind.
You must realize that you are untested and have a great deal to learn. Accept difficulties, but be confident that a solution will come. Study your new community, ask questions so you are not blindsided by attitudes and behaviors that you may encounter. This is really important because, especially if you're going into a new school that you have never been in, I suggest doing a lot of research before you go into the classroom, and do not just do research on who you're working with, also do research with the community. And is this a
That is a hard word. We know what you mean. Just keep going.
Or is it like a very large community? You just need to know what you're going into ahead of time, and also you want to know what kind of students you're going to be dealing with. I know we talked about before, you don't want to already have a mindset on a student before you get them, but you also want to know ahead of time, are these students, as a class, are they good students? Have they, as a class as a whole, had trouble problems? And you just kind of have to adjust how you're going to be teaching to them. Okay, you also have to be confident in going in, and you have to know that even though you may face things that you're not used to, that those things will come in time and you will learn how to get over those difficulties, but you have to be confident that there will be a solution. And you also have to realize that you do have a lot to learn. I know, like me, I'm a perfectionist. I want everything to go the right way. I want everything to a plan. But I know that my first year teaching probably won't go like that at all. So I just gotta go ahead and get used to that. Next, find a mentor. I think that's one of the most important things, is to have somebody there for you who has experienced the first year already, who's been there for a while, and who is willing to help you whenever you do run into those difficult times and you just don't know what to do. In 2008, 25 states required and financed mentoring for all beginning teachers. And 20 of those states have some form of mentoring program standards for selecting, training, and or matching novice teachers. So states actually require teachers to have a mentor to help them throughout their first year. That way that they don't run into those situations where they just get so upset and don't even want to do it anymore. They have somebody there to talk to and to help them through it.
And as far as finding a mentor, I want to elaborate too. You don't necessarily have to wait until you start teaching to do that. I know at my old high school, I have 2 teachers that I already talk about because they know I want to teach, and they'll already tell me problems they face, how they deal with them, and kind of help me go ahead and prepare myself before my first year of actually teaching. So you don't always have to wait your first year to do that.
Okay, make your student parents your allies by doing things such as preparing short statements to be carried home, signed and returned to introduce yourself. If your school doesn't do an open house night thing where you can introduce yourself to the parent and kind of let them know how you are as a teacher, then that's a good way to kind of send home a letter saying, hey, this is me. I just want to let you know that I'm going to be there whenever you need me. You can shoot me an email, or you can call me, or we can have a conference. You can come in and we can have a meeting time. Or you can send home a statement about homework, disciplinary policies to be signed and returned. That's a good way to go ahead and tell the parents, this is what I'm going to expect in the classroom and the disciplinary actions I'm going to take if things do end up happening with the child. That way the parent can sign it, they've seen it, they know, so there's no surprises whenever they get a phone call that their child has been acting up in class, or if their child hasn't done the homework, because you are sending the homework home for the parent to be able to see. And another thing about the introducing yourself, make sure that it's signed and returned, because if the parent doesn't see that, then that means that the parent really never got to you never really got to introduce yourself to the parent, and they never really got to see that you really did care, and you want that between the parent and you.
Okay, so we have our group activity, and we're actually going to split into 3 groups, but we wanted to count you off to make sure nobody got left out.
Okay. So just say 1, 2, or 3 when I point to you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
So let's do like, if we could do like 1's over here in this area, 2's maybe back there, and then the 3's over here.
And you need to form a circle.
Like a small circle.
Looks like we're standing up there.
Yeah.
Standing up.
Okay, is everybody in the group?
So the beach balls that you're gonna get, they have 6 questions written on them. The questions are numbered, but the order does not matter. What you're gonna do is we're gonna give you an amount of time. You're gonna toss the ball around. When we tell you to stop, whoever has the ball, you look at the question under your right thumb. If there's not a question under your right thumb, use your left thumb. And then if you end up getting duplicates, because we want you to discuss all the questions that are on the ball as a group. So if you end up getting duplicates, just pick one that you haven't done already. And then at the end, we're all going to come together, and each group is going to discuss 2 of the questions written on the ball out loud in the class. We're going to assign you 2 different questions. So,
Everybody got any questions?
any questions? Okay.
Alright, so you gotta throw the ball around, then whoever has it, whenever they say stop, that's who's gotta answer.
Oh, once you get off the table.
It's like hot potato, yeah.
Oh, randomly.
Stop! So we're going to give you 2 minutes to discuss the question as a group.
How do you think that making sure you have a realistic outlook on teachers could influence your attitude as a first year teacher? All get your homework done, so like, don't feel like overbear them.
I feel like accepting is like the
I think having a realistic outlook is important to me, because you don't want to like set your goals super high and then get crushed. So you should be realistic about it. I'll set it too low.
If they don't do an expectation, you're gonna give you information. Just so you know what's gonna happen.
like you compare like you're saying one class is like 5, you know, of course.
So really realistic goals, and like they're like throw everything on at one time and it comes over one and ends up forgetting everything.
Alright, you guys ready to start again? Okay. And go. Stop!
What are you doing in the air?
Where I graduated high school, it was a while back, they had a website that you could post like grades on. Parents could get access to. Maybe. Oh, really? My parents logged in.
Okay, are you guys almost ready? And go. Are you looking at me instead of stop? We were trying to get it to Casey. My bad. Stop. Yeah, it stopped. I'm sorry. Y'all go ahead.
Your attitude as a first teacher. How do you think that making sure you have a realistic outlook on teaching your attitude as a first
Now that I'm in college, yeah. It's a different environment in high school teaching. And so like everyone is motivated because obviously it's not college, they're different education rather than education where people just go to the sports event. So I feel like you're supposed to be a lot more, a lot bigger than what you could say at like grade school level. So I feel like it's really
What I talk about uptime, how when you go in with so many ideas or so many expectations or things like that, like that's not realistic. If you come in with like a few goals that are realistic and you run them by some people, like I think that's a big thing. It's like if you run by your goals by your mentors and things like that, that's also a big check because you don't again you don't know we don't know, and so like running those things by your mentors and stuff like that will help you have a realistic goal and a realistic outcome for yourself.
All right, you guys ready? All right, go. Stop.
If you have tried everything you know to do and the student still does not understand the lesson, who do you go to for help?
Okay, what can you do to avoid problematic territory?
Yeah.
How is parent-teacher relations?
You can get around your
I would say establish that you are in charge of the classroom, you know, how parents don't want to do their thing, they're like, well, they don't know, you know, just establish that the students in the classroom, you are in charge of them, not what they do.
So we can do, and so then, if like, we had problems early in the semester, then we go back and say, well, if you sign
And then there was one day where we would have to turn in homework, stress her out, whatnot, like, she got it. And my mom was like, that my mom had a hard time using that situation. What is wrong with you?
And echo what she said, like, I also went to like a very, very, very small school. And I have, she was a great teacher, but she taught my brother. And my brother is, he's getting classes right now in Canada because of me. So he's like great at that. Me, not so much. And she would like call me out and like expect me to know this stuff just because my brother could do it. Yeah, it wasn't a good experience.
All right, you guys ready? Go.
I got your tape.
Stop.
I feel like at the beginning of the school year, like, take time to make sure that the students know what your expectations are and don't lower them. Yeah, if you make it known in the beginning and stick to that, then like students are more likely to follow along.
So I think if you're not sure if you're being too strict or too lenient, maybe you could have a colleague like watch your class.
So like off the kids, like how they react to certain things, because true, like I'm elementary education, and so like obviously my kids are like scared of me or like there's probably a problem. So it's just like finding a happy medium and sticking with it.
Probably still like a lot of people are
Just knowing that you take the time.
I went to go my sport field on Friday, and Montgomery was representing. So like, there's a kid running around the classroom the whole time.
Oh, right.
It's high school.
Oh.
Yeah, speaking of higher grades, yeah. Yeah, no, they don't know. My house didn't use higher grades.
Well, it's the same class too. There's only like 15 kids like that. It's a big place. She was a professional.
Their favorite.
Who's there now? My ex.
All right, we're gonna do one more time. And go. Stop.
I got a little too into that.
College teachers, ask them, hey, when are you doing prom? Yeah, Yeah, it's from like other districts. Who you are at, I'm from New York, so one of my like sister's friends started like teaching me studies on the island. So in like some cities, a lot of
I really like the around like here. I already have like
some areas still like that, so the kids aren't so much in the classroom, and so like it's really hard to just figure out and
stuff to do.
see what they have.
Yeah, so I like the idea of having
And you gave it what, 20 seconds?
Remembering that you're still doing the first year is a big thing.
Me and her did it.
It's more like you have to remember yourself here, so like what you like to do, maybe not what you care about, and but self-care, so I don't feel like they might not be able to put down a whole weekend until you're further into your years
Not really their friends, but like still you give them a little, but then
and yes, teaching is a lifestyle, but
Teach your mother pass. I was trying not to look at me, so I was just I'm gonna hang on.
And like on the way to the school, like we could see like some of the houses that our students lived in, and they're like the roofs like weren't right and stuff like that. And so like it's a lot different.
Their first year, it's not just you, like everyone struggles, so like accept the struggles and
Okay, so everybody should have had the opportunity to discuss all 6 questions that are on the beach balls. So now we're going to split up the questions. All the questions on the beach balls are the same. The 6 questions are the same. So this group is going to be responsible for discussing questions 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and 5 and 6. So we're going to start with y'all with number 1.
I'm gonna read the question.
Yeah.
Do you think that culture shock may impact you once you begin teaching? If yes, in what ways? If no, why?
Yeah, and it can be like an open discussion, so I think they give their
Y'all can
reason
put
if y'all
in your
want.
input too.
Yeah.
I said that it depends on where you go to teach. Like if I went back to my hometown, it wouldn't be a culture shock, but if I went to a big city, it probably would be because I'm not used to that. So yeah.
I also think it depends on where you went to high school, because I went to a really big high school for 2 years, and then for my junior and senior year, I went to a high school that only had like a graduating class of 30, and there were only like 4 to maybe 12 students in a class. So going from having small class sizes to like classes of 30, sometimes even 35, that'll also really like mess you up.
Does anybody else want to put in anything about number 1 before we get into? Okay, so number 2.
If you have tried everything you know to do, and a student still does not understand the lesson, who do you go to for help and why?
I said that you could go to like your other teachers like in your department or in your grade and see if they have any suggestions, or you can go to teachers that taught them in the past and see if they have any suggestions as well.
I think it's also the parents. Like you know, in some situations, yeah, they're not reliable and it's not a great relationship. But in some situations, parents can get it going. I mean, I know people who their parent, you know, the teacher could call them about something that day, and that kid is, their phone's gone and everything's like happening just because that teacher took the time and called them about it. You know what I mean? But that building that trust in your student and your teacher.
Well, at the end of the day, you're almost like a parental. I mean, I wouldn't say that teachers are like parents because they're not. Teachers aren't responsible for teaching their children to say please and thank you and whatnot. But in some ways, teachers kind of fulfill the role of a parent in terms of they're in charge of supervising students, keeping them safe, you know, and offering guidance to them. So parents want to feel like their teachers do care about their opinion. At the end of the day, parents do know their students better than their teachers, I think, in most cases. So I think it's important just to have that flow of communication with them.
Yeah, I kind of like, when Casey was talking, I thought of this, but I was a K1 camp counselor last summer at my church's kids camp. And so we had this one student that just had a lot of like behavioral issues, and it was really hard getting through to him and getting him to listen, because like you could tell he was very smart and like he knew what he was supposed to do, but there was no way to get through to him to get him to listen and like stop running around and being crazy and all that. And so finally, like, because I had to keep going to like the camps, like head honcho, boss lady, and like we were trying to find ways, and then when that didn't work, we called the parents, and then we like together came up with this like reward system that worked really well. And so like collaboration on like all ends is good, because you have to find like what like works best. And sometimes like, I mean, parents know their kids, they know what works, sometimes they don't. So yeah.
And relating it back to the chapter, you can also always go to your principal. If you don't know who to go to, like in your department, they can direct you to who may have the most experience at dealing with what you're dealing with. Anybody else? Okay, number 3.
How do you think that making sure you have a realistic outlook on teaching could influence your attitude as a first-year teacher?
Not look at me. We were talking about being realistic. You know, you want to set goals that are realistic, and sometimes you, I think that's important for all things. You know, we talked about the journaling thing, but setting goals for your year, and not too many and not too little, and then running those goals by somebody. You know, that can make your outlook on your first year realistic and reasonable when you run your experience or what you're trying to do by somebody else. Because I know, like, I'll come into a new leadership position or a new thing or a new class with a lot of ideas and a lot of like craziness, and I can be too much sometimes and I can be too little sometimes. And so, like, you know, finding that medium, but maybe faster than the first day of school is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, maybe talking to, you know, like I said, your peer mentor or things like that, where you can make a realistic goal before you can get in the classroom, and that can help have a realistic first year.
I also said like to base your goals off of your students. I think it's important to assess your students and kind of see where they're at, because you're liable to get a really low class or really like high class, or you can get all kinds of things, and you have to like base those goals and make them realistic based off of their learning abilities and where they're at. Because if not, they could be too low for your group, or they could be far too high for your group.
Last night, in the Teaching Scholars meeting, the teacher that came in and talked, she was awesome. Like, I got so many ideas and inspiration from her. She was amazing. Like, honestly, I would worship this woman. But anyway, she said that she has a system of color coding worksheets. So like, and the students don't realize it, but the green worksheets are distributed to the students who have a solid understanding of the topic. Another color might be for students who are kind of, in Spanish we would say más o menos, and in the pink worksheets are for the students who just aren't really getting it, and the students don't realize it. They think it's just her doing her thing with colors, but she's actually holding students up to different expectations based on what she knows they can do, and that helps her like assess, you know, how they're growing, where they're at. And I thought that was really good.
And she disguises it, you know, she doesn't boast about it or anything, she disguises it by using a lot of colors in other situations. So they could be doing an activity one day, and their activity is different colored paper. And like for that situation, she doesn't care, like she just put it on a different colored paper. But for other situations, she actually was specific about it, and they don't even know, which is really cool.
Well, and I think that's a great idea too, because when you like start to differentiate children, sometimes it can cause them to like, it can affect their self-esteem, especially if like they're on the lower end. So I feel like that was a really great idea to do that, so that they don't know that like they do the work, and because it's on their level, they can understand it, which is going to automatically make them feel better. But on top of that, they don't know that there might be a kid beside them that's doing harder work, but it's more like on an equal playing field, that they don't like feel like they're being like called out.
Right. And see, none of this, if you disguise it in such a way and don't tell anybody, you know, it really does help the student not feel left out, or, you know, that they get the test B. And another thing is you don't like color. I'm not a big color person on color paper. I don't like it. It's not neat. You can do A, B, C, D. G, F, and E, like testing. So like I pick a new letter, I pick F, you know, or letters that are not in the you know, like letters that are not in grading. Maybe like G, H, and, you know, Z. And Z could be the A test, you know, like the people who are preparing for that. So, yeah, that idea.
What steps can you take to make sure you have good classroom management without being too strict or too lenient?
Okay. I tried, okay. So with the whole, being too lenient and too, again, I feel like that just goes back to, are you reaching out to the people above you and the people who set the rules and the principal and your mentors that can really help you to establish that. And I feel like setting your rules in the beginning of the year can surely help with that. When you set your goals and you set your rules for your student in the beginning of the semester or the beginning of the year, that really highlights what you're expecting from your students. And hopefully you can refer, like the goal is to, when someone's acting up or when things are happening, you're referring right back to your list that you've already made, that you've already established in your classroom. And I think having that goal, number one, will help, you know what I mean, will help the understanding of what's expected in the classroom. And that also gives respect, because when I respect you and you respect my rules, then I can respect you back. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of a give and take kind of thing. So.
Does anybody else have any input for that question?
Earlier in the group when we had that question, I said that there's a difference between being strict, like, and then being mean. And there's also, you can make your students respect you and not necessarily fear you. So always keep that in mind.
Okay, you want to start with number 5?
What can you do to avoid problematic parent-teacher relationships?
We just have syllabus because it's right there, everything that you discuss to the students is going to be in the list, and so the teachers can see it, and so if they see it, it won't be a problem. It's easy as that.
Also, I said keep in mind that you don't really know the student like the parent knows them. They can act very differently at home versus how they act at school. So always keep that.
I think it's really good to like establish good communication from the start, like the presentation was saying that like at the beginning, introduce yourself and make sure that the parents know that you want to have a relationship with them, not that they're not exactly like partners with you to like decide what the kids are gonna learn, but they still care about their kids and you want to show them that you are like there to interact with them when you have an opportunity.
You can start out positive, any kind of positive interaction with the parents, then when you have to say something negative later, then you already have a relationship with them. And they will either be your greatest ally or your worst nightmare. And a lot of that you can control, trying to make sure that's a positive thing rather than negative. There are some interesting parents. There's also some absolutely amazing parents that I still keep in touch with them.
Yeah, my mom, she had this one mom who sent in like a notarized list of demands for her child, and like one of them was that her daughter was gluten-free, so everyone else in the classroom had to be gluten-free, so her daughter didn't feel left out. Her daughter never had to complete homework. Her daughter didn't have to sit through certain lessons, so it was like
Is this all Christian gluten-free?
it was like not advanced enough for her, and yeah, it was like notarized and everything. And so my mom had seriously, a notarized list of demands that she had brought in pertaining to her daughter. And my mom had quite a time diffusing that situation and telling the parent that it happened. So yeah.
The principal support?
My mom.
Was your
My
mom
mom
the principal
was
of that?
yeah.
Wow.
Who notarized it? I just want to talk.
I don't know. It's probably a family friend, but yeah.
Okay, let's move on to number 6.
Alright, number 6. What have you learned about ways to cope with and survive your first year of teaching?
We all agree that like the journal.
We all said the journal. Like when we talked about when it came up on the screen, we were all like, we're just gonna go by a journal now because there's no way
first year because who's ever mentoring you, they've already been through or dealt with similar experiences that you're doing. So it's always good to talk to them.
It doesn't have to be just like a hard copy journal either. Like, I don't know how many people in here use Pinterest, but I have like a Pinterest board where I save ideas about my future classroom, and not just about like teaching Spanish, but also about like teaching in general, you know, just strategies. I'm a big fan of flexible seating, and that's hard to implement in a high school classroom, but I really want to try to do that in my classroom. So I just love saving ideas about my classroom, and it's not like physical journal, but I can still refer back to it and get inspiration from it.
For the flexible seating thing, I actually had a teacher in high school who like went to different thrift stores and flea markets and stuff and got like chairs, like nice chairs, old chairs that she put in her classroom. So that, there's a way to do that.
It's just more difficult with
I
high
always
school
enjoy
students
going in her classroom.
because like when you have a lot of flexible seating that's like sold is for younger students, and like a high school student can sit on that, and then you cannot have exercise balls in a high school classroom because high schoolers are stupid and they will puncture them or throw them at people and stuff like that. So.
Okay, so if no one else has anything to add, go back to your seat. So go ahead and waddle to Kahoot.
Oh yeah, if y'all want to throw the beach balls up. You want me to start with
Everybody just be Casey and I'll be Jesus.
What if
What? Oh, I typed in this. I didn't actually. Who did it? I just said it. I haven't even typed mine in yet. I haven't even typed mine in yet. It's so true. We'll do my PIN number.
Are we turning the beach? No, you got it.
But I
Is everybody in?
If you're not in, raise your hand.
wait. Wait, can I go?
Alright, we're gonna get started.
When are you gonna miss it?
Brittany, you better log in.
Brittany, don't name yourself Brittany.
Too late.
Don't be Brittany.
Wait, who's Brittany?
I'm Brittany.
Okay. Did you spell it like my name?
I'm not Casey.
So I was like, oh, no, that's not like Brittany.
Like N-E-Y.
Oh, okay.
Brittany, hurry. Brittany, hurry.
I'm so sorry.
Brittany will still be up there, right? Your mom.
Hurricane tortilla.
I did a mixture of Megan and Macy.
She probably that's probably smarter than what she.
Are you in, Brittany?
There it is.
Hey, that's my husband's last name. It's spelled like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what?
that was back in the notes, and obviously it's true.
Can somebody read the question? Jesus Christ.
Jason Ford. Overburdened parents are a reason for parent-teacher problems.
I would have gotten it right.
Judgments on students is a reason for parent-teacher problems. True or false? Y'all getting slower now.
That one is true.
I'm gonna give up. Now I'm mad.
Don't give up.
Which of the following is not a major area that causes problems in teacher success and failure?
What the?
Sex as in the gender.
Yeah.
Which one's not like the other?
Not a major area that causes problems.
The other three, the discipline, social distance, and the sex were all listed in the PowerPoint.
Yeah, it were.
Something.
I remember it. It was in bold.
When should you begin to prepare for your first year of teaching?
Now.
It's senior year. First day of teaching. I swear, if somebody puts that, I'm gonna die.
I mean,
Brittany.
Oh, it's you.
No, I did it because she said something. Good job.
Which of the following is a reason listed in the PowerPoint to keep a teaching journal?
To complain about students. Me, I was a
I don't know.
Oh, man, I see your questions wrong.
Oh.
Alright, man, I'm still
Alright, so obviously to complain about students was not listed in the PowerPoint as a reason to keep a journal.
I mean, I guess that could be a reason to keep a journal, but the journal is mainly for like now, for like keeping ideas for the future.
Yeah.
The blue and yellow options are more like just what you would put in a regular diary or a regular journal.
Yeah. We wanted like the specific reason that was listed in the actual PowerPoint. But
The feeling of dislocation people experience when they initially live in a foreign country is
Static shock. Who actually put that?
We found him. Do you still want to be a teacher?
You're still in this class and you should.
Alright, look, here's your question.
Where's the no? Yeah, what's the right choice?
Don't answer.
Where's the no option? Bless you.
Which of the following is not a role of the principal?
I'm mad.
One. Ooh, I raised a
A mentor should be an experienced teacher who is willing to be a guide through the first year. True or false?
Look at it, people. Pay attention.
Jordan won.
Congratulations, Jordan.
Jesus did.
yeah, we don't have
Sorry, no problem.
Jesus always win though.
Jesus is always the answer. Alright, we hope you guys like